Before we talk about where we are now, let's just talk about where we come from, okay? If you know anything about black people in America, you know that we are descended from slaves. Like every black person in the United States, save for recent African immigrants, is descended from people who were kidnapped and brought to this country to work for free. Black people built America, and ultimately we will be the people who destroy it. But I keep seeing this discussion about like high value men, high value women. And it got me thinking like we were the original high value people in the United States. Like this is how they talked about us. Okay? Very superior washer and ironer. Sold by J.A. Beard, auctioneer, office number 45 Magazine Street, will be sold at auction this day at 12 o'clock at the St. Louis Exchange. The mulatress, a mulatto or mulatress, is a man or woman who is half black and half white. Why were there so many mulattoes and mulattresses in the United States? Because white people who owned slaves were in the habit of having forced sexual intercourse with the non male slaves. So you basically had white men raping black women and then selling their own children into slavery. Of course, you had some who actually helped lead to the generation of the very first black bourgeoisie, I guess you could call it, the very first black business owning class, because some of them, I guess, I don't know, can rapists have pity? Can rapists have sympathy? But they actually manumitted, they freed their kids, their mixed race mulatto kids. I hate that term because it literally comes from the Arabic word for mule, muwalat. It basically means mixed, half breed, shit like that. But so they would free their half white kids and leave them property and leave them money. And in many cases, these people went north. You have a class of people in this country who were descended from people who were like freed in the 16 and 1700s. That was like our first black upper class. Anyways, the mulattress Harriet, aged 23 years, very likely, meaning very attractive, speaks French and English, superior washer and ironer, and her two children are being sold with her. The above slaves are fully guaranteed against the vices and maladies prescribed by law. Terms are $500 cash, balance 4 months credit for approved endorsed note, and mortgage until final payment. Active sale before a Chiapella, notary public at the expense of purchaser. So you have a variety of places where they literally bought and sold us. Many of these places are forgotten, but here's an account. Sarah Elizabeth Adams was around 5 when her mother was sold to a slave dealer in Lynchburg, that's a hell of a name, Virginia. The auction took place in the mid-1840s at the town of Marion, Virginia. Sally, as she was called, was sold herself that day, but not with her mother. A man named Thomas Thurman purchased Sally to take care of his sick wife. She would never see her mother again. Sally and her family were among the 1.2 million enslaved men, women, and children sold in the United States between approximately 1760 and 1860, 100 years, according to this story of Michael Tadman. After the American Revolution, cotton production grew rapidly and demand for enslaved workers on the vast plantations of the Deep South intensified. So, if you're black, this is your history. To be sold and lit by public auction on Monday, the 18th of May, 1829, under the trees for sale, the three following slaves: Hannibal, about 30 years old, an excellent house servant of good character; William, about 35 years old, a laborer; Nancy, an excellent house servant and nurse. So again, when I hear talk about like high value black men and women, this is what I talk about. Like they valued you based on what you could do. To be lit, meaning they would literally let somebody borrow you. And yeah. Male and female slaves: Robert Bagley, about 20 years old, a good house servant; William Bagley, about 18 years old, a laborer; John Arms, about 18 years old; Jack Antonia, about 40 years old, a laborer; Philip, an excellent fisherman; Harry, about 27 years old, a good house servant; Lucy, a young woman of good character, used to housework and the nursery; Eliza, an excellent washerwoman; Clara, an excellent washerwoman. Fanny, about 14 years old, good house servant. Sarah, about 14 years old, house servant. Also for sale at 11 o'clock, fine rice, graham patty, books, muslins, needles, pins, ribbons, etc., etc. At 1 o'clock, that celebrated English horse, Butcher. So they sold us alongside fucking rice, needles, pins, ribbons, books, and a horse. So, with these atrocities in mind, because that's what these are, atrocities, let's listen to this. Okay, keep what I just told you in mind, okay? All black people were valued according to what we could do. We were literally sold like fucking cows and horses and books and ribbons and pins and needles. Listen to this.
Here's a list of jobs that men should not do, especially grown ass men, okay? For one, McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's. Matter of fact, any fast food restaurant, if you think
You've never eaten fast food in your life?
that you're a grown ass man working in a fast food restaurant is okay, something is wrong with you, all right? Leave
What's wrong with you?
those jobs to the teenagers. My nephew can't even get a job right now.
I saw something that says that the average fast food worker is a 30-something-year-old woman with kids. So the stereotype that these are jobs for teenagers or college students, that's misplaced. That's bourgeois ruling class propaganda.
Because there's some grown ass men in his goddamn 40s flipping my goddamn burger. Okay? Let it go. Leave it alone. That job is not for you. Anything in retail.
What about if somebody is coming home from prison and these are the only places that would hire them?
Okay, I don't want to see no grown ass man handing me a dress. Okay, why are you a grown ass man working at Ross?
So you fancy yourself a high value woman. You think you're a bourgeois gentlewoman that doesn't have to
That
work.
makes
That doesn't have to work. Why the fuck are you doing shopping at Ross's Dress for Less? Like rich women don't shop at Ross. They shop at Balenciaga and Gucci and Versace and all these other places.
absolutely no sense. Okay, Target, Marshalls, like
Why are you shopping at these stores if you're a bourgeois high value woman?
guys, give it up. Leave these jobs to the kids. Leave these jobs to the teenagers. These are jobs you get in high.
Real old money also doesn't wear this woman. Her stage name, I guess, is Diamond the Body. Real old money does not wear fucking chains around their neck with their initials. Like that's tacky.
School, in college, but once you're a grown ass man, you do not need to be working in any fast food restaurant or any retail restaurant. And for you
Retail restaurant.
high value men that think that it's high value to work for the city, let me tell you something. You're absolutely wrong, all right? No police officers,
Yes, no police officer. Fuck the police. And by fuck the police, I do not mean have sexual intercourse with the police.
no firefighters, no
What's wrong with firefighters?
construction workers,
No construction workers. Do you have any idea how much unionized construction workers and laborers make?
no mailmen, no
Do you have any idea? Like the mailman, the postal service used to be one of the best jobs you can get as a black person.
post office. If you consider that a high value man, you're absolutely wrong. Okay, there's nothing high value about making 70,000 a year.
Really? Yeah, I guarantee you it's more than you make. Like what do you fucking want? Do you want a drug dealer? Like is that I don't know. Like you want a drug dealer that's going to take you to the club and then get shot in front of you and possibly get you shot? Like what type of person do you want? Well, I noticed that she didn't leave. I noticed that she did not put Twitch streamers on the list. So maybe I have a chance. If I wasn't gay, maybe I would have a chance. Are gays high value men? Can you fix me, Diamond? Anyway, so yeah, she's trash. Here's another one. This was shared by Tariq Nashi, and I put my own commentary on there. I said that I saw Tariq Nashi post this, and my questions are like, why is community in quotes? So just a breakdown of this image, okay? It says, what are you doing for your community? This is being said by a person, hashtag Pookie, and apparently this white goth girl is his girlfriend slash wife. I guess these are supposed to be mixed kids that he's had with his thick goth girlfriend. And you have what are supposedly a bunch of single mothers here. Like, I was raised by a single mother. I turned out quite fine. And you have Pookie saying, "What are you doing for your community?" in quotes. And then you have this wavy Chad over here who is an athlete, musician, business owner, or anyone that survived. So how do you define survival? Like, are these all ghosts over here? And I said that I saw Tariq Nashi post this, and my questions are like, why is community in quotes? Why is becoming an athlete, a musician, or a petty capitalist seen as the ideal? Like, what exactly is wrong with being working class? What is wrong with being proletarian? Like, our ancestors were literal slaves. Our grandparents were literal sharecroppers. My grandmother lived in a fucking shack on a plantation in Mississippi. Do proletarians not survive? I would define the proletarian experience, the working class experience in the United States as being that of survival, especially that of the black proletariat. Do people not owe the community that raised and nurtured them attention and support? This is what happens when you position yourself as a radical yet are fundamentally chained to a capitalist mindset. Like, under this system, there is nothing wrong with striving to get out of the ghetto, with striving to get out of the hood, okay? These are horrible places to live. These are very traumatic places to live, okay? Like, there is nothing wrong with aspiring to do financially better for yourself and move out of the horrible conditions that white supremacy has placed us in, okay? No, I am not saying that anybody that we are mandated to be poor forever and live in the ghetto forever. Let's get some beats. But like, we have a community, okay? Those of us who are educated, those of us who are doing financially well, hell, those of us who are even rich. Like, we have a duty to serve our people. We have a duty to help our people. Okay? We cannot just sit back and do solely for ourselves and do solely for our family, because that is not how we survive as a community. So, Tariq Nasheed, Boyce Watkins, these people fancy themselves as creators of a new black nation. But the method of analysis that they are using is harmful. It's eugenicist. And it's like Booker T. Washington bullshit. Booker T. Washington thought that we should not strive for social and political economy. We should strive for. He founded Tuskegee as an industrial school. Like, he was going to teach us how to be carpenters. He was going to teach us how to be farmers. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But we should have greater aspirations for ourselves as a people. Like, we should have greater aspirations for our nation, because that is what black people in the United States are, a nation. We are the new African nation. And if each and every one of us becomes an exploiter, like, that's not going to work. Parasites cannot feed off of each other. Okay? So let's go back a little further. Not all the way back to slavery time, but to the civil rights era. Okay, so you have this guy, TRM Howard. He wasn't a poor man. His real name was Theodore Roosevelt Mason Howard, TRM. He was born on March 4th, 1908 in Murray, Kentucky. His father was a tobacco twister, while his mother worked as a cook for Will Mason, a prominent white doctor. Mason hired the boy to perform menial hospital jobs and was so impressed that he helped pay for Howard's medical education. In gratitude, Howard added Mason to his name. He attended 3 Adventist colleges, and he attended the College of Medical Evangelists. So he was active in civil rights and politics. He became chief surgeon at the Hospital of the Knights and Daughters of Tabor in the all-black town of Mound Bayou, Mississippi. Within 5 years, he had founded an insurance company, a hospital, a home construction firm, and a large farm where he raised cattle, quail, hunting dogs, and cotton. He also built a small zoo and a park, as well as Mississippi's first swimming pool for black people. In 1947, he broke with the Knights and Daughters, organized the rival United Order of Friendship. So you've got the Eastern Stars, you've got the Knights of Tabor, you've got the United Order of Friendship. These were all what we would call fraternal and sororal organizations, right? Because we couldn't join the White Masons, so we started the Prince Hall Masons. And back in the day, like in 18 and 1900s, like, these were very important. They would provide you financial support. They provided you business connections. Like, anybody who was anybody in the black community belonged to one of these groups. Okay, they really don't have as much like pull as they used to. But like, when I was growing up, I was taught that like Masons had a lot of power. Conspiracy theory bullshit. But like, as I got to know Masons, like, they were basically like a frat for old ass men. Harmless. Howard entered the civil rights limelight in 1951 when he founded the Regional Council of Negro Leadership. One of its officials was Medgar Evers, whom Howard had hired as an agent for his Magnolia Mutual Life Insurance Company. He mounted a boycott against service stations, distributing 20,000 bumper stickers bearing the slogan, "Don't buy gas where you can't use the toilet." Very good slogan. In 54, he ran afoul of a credit squeeze at the White Citizens Councils. I talked about this last stream, if I recall correctly. They were basically the Klan for rich white people, launched against civil rights activists. He was instrumental in organizing a counteroffensive to encourage black businesses, churches, and voluntary organizations to transfer their accounts to the black-owned bank, the Tri-State Bank of Memphis. The $28,280 had poured into the bank were made available for loans to victims of the squeeze. This is his most important thing. The fallout from Emmett Till's August 55 murder represented the beginning of the end of Howard's career in Mississippi. So when Emmett Till's mom, Mamie Till, came to Mississippi to serve as a witness against the people who murdered him at Till, he provided security. Like, he had a bunch of dudes with Tommy guns, pistols. Like, this dude had a Cadillac, and he literally had several places where you could stash guns in his vehicle, okay? So he helped keep this woman from getting killed and anybody else that was involved with the case on the Till family's side. And they eventually ran him out of Mississippi, and he moved to Chicago. He also helped found Operation Push in the early 60s. He made several trips to Africa because he loved big game hunting. And he eventually died in Chicago on May 1st, 1976. So what can we learn from TRM Howard, okay? He was rich. He had several businesses. He had a farm. He had an insurance company. All sorts of shit. And he was a doctor. And he also built houses for black people. But he realized that he owed a duty to his community, because this was the era of segregation, okay? So there was a strata of black petty bourgeoisie, black small business owners. Why? Because we couldn't go to white barbershops, so we had to open our own. Even today, like, black people don't go to white barbershops. We don't let white people touch our hair. I let a white dude touch my hair in fucking high school. I should have smacked the shit out of him. But I let him touch my hair, and my hairline receded all the way to the back of my head. So never let a white person touch your hair if you're black. But we couldn't go to white barbershops. We couldn't go to white restaurants. We couldn't go to black funeral homes when we died. We couldn't be buried in white cemeteries. So we had to get our own shit. And the people that owned these things, that owned our own shit, places like Black Wall Street in Tulsa, the proper name is Greenwood, places like Harlem in New York, like, there were black business communities all around the country. Okay? There was nothing wrong with that. Okay? And even today, like, there is nothing wrong with the black person having a bit of money. I spoke on this earlier when I talked about, like, how a lot of white communists want to try to poverty police us. Like, they seem to think that we're bourgeois if we don't live in the fucking projects. Like, nobody wants to live in the projects. Like, you move into the fucking projects. They're not going to do that because most white communists are hypocrites and they're also enemies of black people. But let me find it. So, I support black people living as well as possible under the system until we destroy it and take it as much from it as possible, as long as there's no exploitation of others involved. We've suffered for 500 years. Our ancestors want us to eat steak. We've earned it. We produced it. Everything this country has is because of us. Let white people live Spartan lives if they want to absolve their guilt that way. Black people in the South were literally beaten, shot, and lynched for wearing clothes that were deemed too nice for us, owning too much land, having a nice car, or for living in a house that was above the standards that white people set for us. We were seen as dangerous and uppity if we did these things. Poor whites went especially hard against this because it hurt their fragile egos. Many of the lynchings that took place were because settlers wanted to take our land and resented our prosperity. They were jealous of us. White people like to see black people suffering so they can try to save us and make themselves feel good or keep us under their control. Why do you think they violently hated and lynched independent black farmers or professionals in the South? Because they couldn't threaten to make them starve if they didn't toe the line. Like, if you worked on a plantation and you started getting involved in civil rights activity, they would literally just kick you off the plantation. If you worked at a factory, you worked at a textile mill, you worked at a at a cigar rolling plant, you worked anywhere that white people owned, which was pretty much everywhere in the South. Like, if you started getting involved in shit that they didn't want you getting involved in, they would fire you. They would make your family starve. So that's why, like, many of the black activists who were involved in the civil rights movement in the South, like they were preachers like Martin Luther King, or they were small business or even large business owners like TRM Howard, or this guy, C.O. Chin. He was a successful local businessman and entrepreneur in Canton, Mississippi. He owned a 152-acre farm, operated a bootlegging operation, a rhythm and blues nightclub, aka a juke joint, and had a large collection of pistols, shotguns, and rifles. Everyone in the county, including the sheriff, knew not to push against Chin too hard. There are only two bad sons of bitches in this county, remarked Sheriff Noble, me and that N-word, C.O. Chin. Chin grew up in a family of small, independent farmers in rural Mississippi. One day, a white farmer approached Chin's mother and demanded that Chin work for a white person or leave the county. When Chin was told of this, he went to the farmer, armed with a .38 caliber pistol, and told him to stay out of Chin family affairs. Throughout the 1960s, Chin provided unwavering armed protection and support to the freedom movement. There was never a time that you needed to go someplace that he didn't assign somebody to go with you, Corps Field Secretary Mateo Fluky Suarez recalled. They watched over us like babies. It was like having your bodyguards. This protection from the typical Jim Crow harassment that plagued many communities throughout Mississippi allowed Corps activists to survive in Canton. He lost his businesses and nearly all of his property, but he continued to campaign for the right to vote, continuously speaking at mass meetings. He also organized a local boycott against stores owned by segregationists. As his son Clarence remembers, he was raised to believe that you were supposed to work hard, treat everybody right, respect everybody, but take no mess off nobody, regardless of color. So, you had black businessmen and black farm owners, and by the way, like that's why they were working vehemently to like chip away at our land ownership in the South, because they cannot stand that independence. We were brought to this country as slaves, okay? We were brought here to be sold and auctioned off and raped and all these other horrible things, beaten to death when we got too old to be productive for the feudal white plantation owning class, okay? So they did not want a bunch of independent black landowners. They did not want a bunch of independent black business owners. Does this mean that black people owning land and black people owning businesses is inherently revolutionary? No. Because as a dialectical materialist, I realized that nothing is inherently anything. Good can turn into bad, and bad can turn into good. So people like TRM Howard and C.O. Chin, they served an objective purpose in liberating our people, yeah? But let's flash forward a little bit, okay? Who was like the main white booster of black capitalism? Like who gave support to the future Jay-Z's and Beyoncé's and all these other types of people? Richard Nixon, who notoriously despised black people. He thought we were too stupid to be communist spies. So let's listen to Cheryl Thompson on this.
Story of Sammy Davis Jr. I mean, it's so fascinating because you're talking about someone who was an entertainer from he was, I think, 3, literally. Like he spent his entire life, that's all he did. And I know one of his biggest regrets is that he never got an education, not even high school. Like he was functionally literate, but barely, right? And so
like that was very common. Like my grandma actually took she actually took adult literacy classes in the 80s, because like my grandma was raised pretty much illiterate. And you still have illiterate people like today. Like there was a guy at my shelter, the last shelter I worked at, he literally could not read. Like he would get mail and he would ask me to read it to him. That is something that is still very common today. Back then it was because they would make us leave school and go work on their fucking plantations. But now it's because like inner city school systems are absolutely shot. Thank you, White Flight. Thank you, tax-based flight.
Means if you put that in, but they saw themselves as individuals. By this point, they're not really connected to black community. Changing. Sammy is looking really outdated as part of the Rat Pack. It's just not coming together. So I think his idea, and he's not the only one. I talk about James Brown in the book as well, because both of these men who were very successful, but they saw themselves as individuals. By this point, they're not really connected.
Yeah, the struggle is like individualism against collectivism. Like TRM Howard and C.O. Chin, yeah, they were individuals. They each had their property. They each had their land, but they saw themselves as being part of a greater black community. these new black capitalists, these people who are talking about high value men and women and shit, like they're rampant individualists. Like they don't see themselves as part of a black community. Like look at the like the fucking Tariq Nashi thing that I posted. Like why is like community is in quotes. Why? Because they don't see themselves as members of any community. They see the black community as something that's pulling them down and see it as a refuge of scheming city girls and baby mamas and black men who lust after white women to produce mulatto children and babies who are raised not knowing who the daddy is. Like this is the same type of shit that that Moynihan talked about. And if you don't know who Moynihan was, he was a reactionary white senator, I think, that released this report that talked about, like, I don't know, the Negro Family, the case for national action. So you've got this whole thing. It was released in 1965. What was happening in 1965? You had long, hot summers. So you have the whole thing. And what does he think the roots of the problem are? Scroll a little bit. The events worked against the emergence of a strong father figure. The very essence of the male animal, from the bantam rooster to the four-star generalist who strut. Indeed, in 19th century America, a particular type of exaggerated male boastfulness became almost a national style. In a situation, the Negro family made little progress towards the middle-class pattern of the present time. So he basically just like lambasts the white family. I mean, the black family. In 1963, a prosperous year, 29.2% of all Negro men in the labor force were unemployed at some time during the year. Almost half of these men were out of work 15 weeks or more. The impact of poverty on Negro family structure is no less obvious, although again, it may not be widely acknowledged. There would seem to be an American tradition, agrarian in its origins, but reinforced by attitudes of urban immigrant groups to the effect that family morality and stability decline as income and social position arise. So yeah. But this report is like what a lot of these dudes are going off of. Anyways, back there.
To black community, they're emblems of black excellence or black success. So capitalism, or the idea of how to grow sort of your personal wealth through capitalism, is very attractive to many African Americans at this time. It's not to say that they necessarily believed in republicanism, like writ large, but they definitely believed in individual achievement of wealth. And Sammy Davis Jr. just drank that Kool-Aid that Nixon was dishing out in the late 60s. And he sort of was thinking that this is the way forward. The way to fix the ills of black community is through investments through capital. And that was Nixon's black capitalism plan. Oh, you would just invest in black community and give them opportunities. Problem is, those opportunities were not grants and awards. Those opportunities were loans. So what Nixon's plan actually created was a kind of new indenture where black communities were taking out loans to build businesses, but then the businesses might not have done well, and then they couldn't pay back the loan, and then they lose the business.
Yeah, this was during the desegregation era, where like, why would we shop at black-owned stores when we can go to the white-owned store across the street? And like, the white-owned stores had access to suppliers, they had access to distributors, so they could undercut black-owned businesses. So yeah, you were basically in a debt trap, and that's what America loves: debt traps, especially on people of color. So to expand on Nixon's black capitalism, like she said, he made small business administration loans available to black entrepreneurs for the first time. This was Executive Order 11458, which prescribed arrangements for developing and coordinating a national program for minority business enterprise. Instead of government jobs and government housing and government welfare, Nixon said in accepting the Republican nomination in 68, let government use its tax and credit policies to enlist in this battle the greatest engine of progress ever developed in the history of man, American private enterprise. Using capitalism to fix the racial wealth gap, law professor Mersha Bardaran says, will work only if there is a means to transfer capital, assets, wealth, or housing. Activists say the alternative that will create jobs and middle-class prosperity lies in public sector jobs programs akin to the New Deal. So all of these enterprise zones, new market tax credits, promise zones that both Republicans and Democrats love, that comes from Nixon. So you go on, you have people like Boyce Watkins, who literally has in his Twitter handle, wealth is power. Like all he talks about, investments, how to invest in the stock market. And he's selling all of these courses, children's financial flashcards. There's a financial black literacy store. He's got books, 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power, How to Think Like a Millionaire, Financial Lovemaking 101, Merging Assets with Your Partner in Ways That Feel Good, The New Black Power 2.0, Black American Money 2 by Dr. Boyce Watkins, 30 Days to Black Wealth and Power, Black American Money 3, Black Labor, White Wealth, Drama-Free Conversations, Drama-Free Marriage, Drama-Free Family. Oh, he's got stuff for kids. What's this? Flashcards, 10 Commandments of Black Economic Power flashcard set, Black Millionaires of Tomorrow, online courses, Black Money 101, Black Money 102, How to Invest in the Stock Market. Like, and people actually think this stuff is revolutionary. Like, people think that investing in the stock market is revolutionary. Black Business Advanced Topics, Black Money 103 bonus, $1,500. Am I reading that right? I need to get my glasses. Do I need to get my fucking diopter raised? No, he wants $1,500 for this fucking course. He seems to be doing very well for himself. I wonder how many black millionaires he's helped make, though. The stock market decoded. So, yeah, this is obviously a grift about us. The Boyce Watkins Black Financial Literacy Store. His mission is to empower the black community to take control of their finances and achieve financial freedom. I mean, do black people need to know how to manage our money? I mean, yeah. But like, $1,500 fucking courses? Come on, man. He has a coffee business. The coffee that makes you smarter. Huh. $24? I'm good. There's an all-black national convention he does. General access, $350. VIP access, $749. President's Circle, $2,500. What does the President's Circle get? An upgraded ABNC swag bag with goodies. Separate registration just for you. A privately catered lunch with Dr. Boyce. Access to a private President's Circle wealth building training once the event is over. So this guy's like a motivational self-help type dude. He even offers general admission for seniors and military at $250. So this type of thing, like, it goes hand in hand with like labeling yourself and putting a price tag on yourself like a fucking slave. Oh, the dangers of being misindependent. Is he a misogynist too? Let's see.
Girls should get classes on everything from how to be a solid woman, how to have etiquette.
How does he define a solid woman?
How to talk.
A woman that's made out of fucking brass?
Talk to a man, right? Without pissing him off. How to talk to a woman without being a jerk, right? Seriously, like,
you need to take your own course, how to talk to a woman without being a jerk, because I could tell from 11 seconds of you that you're a jerk when you talk to women.
I think all these things. I don't care what anybody says. People talk about like, oh no, that's wrong. You should. No. All this whole like, oh, I'm just gonna be myself. I ain't letting nobody. I refuse to settle. Blah, blah. Okay, cool. You'll be dressing with combat boots on your way to.
What's wrong with women wearing combat boots? Why are you telling women what to wear?
To work every day, walking through subway tunnels where men might beat you up, steal your money, and snatch you.
Not if she has a gun.
Why? Well, because you don't have nobody. You don't have no protection. Because somebody lied to you and just told you life is a journey. You're supposed to do all by yourself.
No, nobody should be all by themselves, but it's a contradiction. Like, you promote this whole individualistic do your own thing, get really rich thing, how to be a millionaire. Pay me $1,500 and I'll teach you all about how to be a millionaire. But you're lambasting women for wanting their own lives, like not being chained to a fucking dude. What's wrong with being misindependent?
I don't believe that.
Like when you look into like most of these guys that are observed with that are obsessed with observing how to make a shitload of money, like they usually end up being misogynists. Like that was a very misogynistic thing. This is where all this high value men bullshit comes from. And high value women. Like, I mean, do these people get things right occasionally? Like, yeah. Like he talks about the dangerous trap of student loans and gambling debt. But, oh, that's a major hotel. But, and then they have the Black Business School. And same shit. Family and generational wealth, investing, small business and entrepreneurship. Let's click on that one. More courses. Black Money 104, how to buy and run a successful franchise. The Black Expert Empire series replays, how you can raise $10,000 for your business in 30 days. Crowdfunding basics, $29 a month. Live Free Lifestyle Masterclass. I mean, is there anything inherently wrong with this type of thing? Like, no. I am not opposed to black people learning how to make and manage money, because like every other ethnicity in this country does, okay? Especially white people. And the only problem comes is when you don't think that you owe other black people anything. Like if you are a black person that has usable spare income, okay? You're not going and busting your ass in a factory back to back. Okay? You owe your community, the community that nurtured you, the community that taught you the values of resilience and organization and strength that enabled you to get where you are. Like, you owe that community a lot. And what differentiates these high value financial guru types from people like TRM Howard and CEO Chin was that like they weren't individualists. They realized that their community was in trouble, just like our community is in trouble now. Like our neighborhoods are being gentrified. That's why I really liked Billiam's video that I watched the other day talking about Mike Epps buying back his childhood block. Like there's nothing wrong with that. If white communists or Uncle Tom leftists tell you that there's something wrong with that, no, because what is the alternative? Our neighborhoods being gentrified and everybody being kicked out of their apartments and kicked out of their houses. Like that literally happened in my city. The USGA, the United States Geospatial Agency, a fucking spy agency, like literally bought out an entire neighborhood, demolished it or moved the houses. And now they're building a fucking spy center on it. And they're talking about like all the jobs that'll bring. And like most of these people are going to be moving here from out of town. Like these jobs are not going to the people in the neighborhood. It's going to be good for WashU. It's going to be good for SLU and all these other gentrifying ass establishments. But the average black people in the neighborhood, they're not seeing anything but displacement and raised rent and all of those other nasties. So to combat classism in the black community, because it's a thing. Like I literally just watched a black woman go off and talk about how if you are a fucking mailman or if you are a fucking McDonald's worker or if you're a construction worker, you're a low value man. You combat this by promoting an actual like proletarian culture, okay? An actual working class culture. Because I get why black people aspire to be football players or basketball players or musicians or actors, because those are the role models that we have. Those are the role models that a kid growing up in the hood has. So of course he's going to try to be like LeBron. Of course he's going to try to be like fucking the fucking Migos, because like that's what's promoted as black excellence and black success. But I see black excellence as being your TRM Howards, your CO Chins, the people who are not dependent on white capitalists, because that's what underlies a lot of this stuff. Okay. Black people are tired of working for white people. We do not want to be dependent on white people for our whole lives because white people don't give a shit about us. Okay? Like, look at what the Zionists are doing to black people who are in decent positions. Like, they're hounding us, they're driving us away from our jobs, they're doxing us, having people do all sorts of horrible things because we have the correct stand on the Palestine question. So they're fucking with us on that. And even if you are a small business owner, even if you are an independent professional, you got your LLC or whatever, like, they still find ways to fuck with you. They'll deny you loans. They'll organize boycotts. Like, these people are very slick. So am I opposed to the very concept of black business as a communist? Absolutely not. Because as long as capitalism and imperialism exists, black people are entitled to our fair share. We were promised 40 acres and a mule. Okay? Now we need that with interest. Because the alternative is basically neo-slavery. We're going to continue being at the very bottom of the economic ladder in the United States. We're going to continue to be broke, and broke people are easy to manipulate. Broke people are easy to use. Broke people are easy to fuck over. So I'm going to follow Huey on this question. Huey said, the oppressor must be harassed until it's due. He must have no peace by day or night. The slaves have always outnumbered the slave masters. The power of the oppressor... Let me move my screen over so you all can see all of this. The power of the oppressor rests upon the submission of the people. When black people really unite and rise up in all our splendid millions, we will have the strength to smash injustice. We do not understand the power in our numbers. We are millions and millions of black people. 44 million of us, scattered across the continent and throughout the Western Hemisphere. 44 million of us in the United States alone. They are recognized by the power of the world. There are more black people in America than the total population of many countries that now enjoy full membership in the UN. Black people must now move from the grassroots through the perfumed circles of the black bourgeoisie to seize, by any means necessary, a proportionate share of the power vested and collected in the structure of America. We must organize and unite to combat by long resistance the brutal force used against us daily. So, Huey is saying that there is a basis for unity with certain elements, not all, of black people who have a bit of money, okay? The title of this article is In Defense of Self-Defense. It was published in the Black Panther on June 20th, 1967. Not even a year after the Black Panther Party was founded. The Black Panther Party was founded in October of 1966. And this was shortly before he was sent to prison for the alleged murder of police officer Frey. So, why is there a basis for unity with certain elements of the black petty bourgeoisie? Because if you talk to any black business person, okay, like, they'll tell you that they have a pretty hard go of it. Like, I read something that black people with perfect credit, okay, cannot get houses. They cannot get the types of loans that white people with shitty credit can get. Banks fuck us over all the time. Okay, but at the same time, we also have to be careful because one divides into two, and you have black people who are like literally integrated with the upper crust, the very highest ranks of the bourgeoisie, okay? The capitalist imperialist ruling class in the United States is a multiracial project. It's not like segregated anymore like it was. Like, you have people that are black who are at the highest levels of the imperialist Fortune 500 corporations, that are on the board of directors, that are CEOs, that hold a variety of titles. These people make millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars a year. They're not like the dude that owns a barbershop on the corner. They're not like the dude that owns a small contracting business. These people are exploiters, like big time exploiters. The dude that owns a barbershop, who the fuck's he exploiting? So, we can divide the black petty bourgeoisie apart from the black bourgeoisie, the real black bourgeoisie that doesn't really exist, because the black bourgeoisie is fundamentally tied to white capital. If you are a black CEO of Coca-Cola, Like, that company is still owned majorly by white people. There is no Fortune 500 company that is owned entirely by black people, okay? So it cannot be said that we really have like a so-called national bourgeoisie, that we have a bourgeoisie of black people in the United States. We have extremely rich white people, black people in the United States. We have individual black members of the bourgeoisie in the United States, but there is no real black bourgeoisie as a class in the United States. So their own individualism is shooting them in the foot, because even if they wanted to get together to try to serve their class or serve their people, they can't do it because they're fractured, and the white people that they share a class with will come together and split them apart, because ultimately the individual black bourgeois is not going to betray his class interests. Okay? Like, Jay-Z is not going to come and help you buy back the projects or turn the projects into a community land trust, because he doesn't give a fuck. He sees the people that live in the projects as fucking trash, as people who couldn't make it. He's made it, so why would he come and help those people? He doesn't give a shit. But a barbershop owner or a small-time contractor or a mechanic in the black community that lives in the black community actually has a reason to give a fuck, because his kids don't go to private schools. His kids go to school with everybody else. His kids are out here getting the shit beat out of them by the police. So there's a difference. So there's a basis for unity with those people. There's not a basis for unity with people like Jay-Z and Beyonce, because they're all the way up here. They look at us like fucking peons and trash. They don't hang out with us. They don't come to our communities. They don't come to where we work or where we live. They hang out exclusively with rich white people and rich people regardless of race. So that's the difference. So, in closing, there's examples of black people who are from a Snoop Dogg is his own fucking deal. But there are examples of black people who have been wealthy in our history, who have done good shit. You have your TRM Howards. You have your CO Chins. You have your Queenie St. Clair's, Madam St. Clair, who was literally a numbers banker in Harlem, who fought with Dutch Schultz and the mob and put innumerable black kids through college. Okay? So, be like this guy. Be like CO Chin. Like, scare the shit out of white people. Don't kiss their ass. Because, yes, it's true. Like, if you talk to any black business owner, they will tell you, like, they don't want us here. They want us under them. And it pisses them off when they see you wearing decent clothes, when they see you driving a fucking Mercedes Benz. Like, a poor ass white person, they don't like that. I can't even be better than a black dude. This black dude is doing good, and I work at a fucking gas station. Like, that sentiment is still there. That sentiment is still there. If you watch Mississippi Burning, the white FBI agent who was actually raised in Mississippi talks about how his dad poisoned the mule owned by a black farmer who lived next to him because, and I quote, "If you know better than an N-word, son, who are you better than?" So a lot of black people think that there's no basis for class unity with white people in the United States, which is nonsense, because there is. But that sentiment has like real foundations, because our ancestors like worked next to these people. Okay. Like, they knew how they felt. And in many cases, it was the poor white people who hated us more than the rich white people did. The rich white people had a sort of like paternalistic view of things, even though they still thought we were an inferior race. Like, a poor white person, like, if you forgot to yield the sidewalk to him, he was liable to knock your fucking eye out. So we just have to unpack and unravel all of the contradictions. And as long as capitalism exists, okay, as long as capitalism and imperialism exist, we're going to have to navigate that space, because a lot of people make the mistake of acting like we're in socialism right now. We're in communism right now. We are not. We are not going to be in socialism or communism for an extremely long period of time. So a lot of black people have the notion that we have to navigate the system that we live in. That is 100% true, because wishing and hoping is not going to help us. We have black people who are starving now. We have black people who are suffering from gentrification now. You have black people who are going through all kinds of horrible shit right now. And that's something that we have to address. So if we get people who have resources that can be applied to the greater good of all black people in the United States, I'm all for it. And I'm going to show you all something else before I go to sleep. Cooperation Jackson community. Oh, shit. Shit like this. This is good. Sustainable Communities Initiative. The SCI is about how we collectively develop, plan, place, space, culture, institutions, and businesses in ways that sustain our communities socially, culturally, economically, and ecologically. So in Jackson, they have the Fannie Lou Hamer Community Land Trust. Cooperation Jackson has purchased vacant lots, abandoned homes, and commercial facilities in the West Jackson neighborhood surrounding our central hub at the Balagoon Center. If you don't know who Kawasi Balagoon is, you need to learn who Kawasi Balagoon is. Very, very theoretically advanced black anarchist. As a matter of fact, it was reading Balagoon that made me change my mind about anarchists, because I used to be like a typical tanky weirdo. You bought the book State and Revolution. Good, read it. Tell me what you think when you finish. These properties and prospective properties are currently owned by the state of Mississippi, Jackson, Mississippi, and private owners. We are organizing land into a community land trust, so they are removed from the speculative market and dedicated for sustainable communal endeavors, whether it be housing, playgrounds, or corner stores. So they're trying to rebuild communities that gentrification and neglect have destroyed. Like, this is good. This is where black people who have these resources, who have land to donate, who have money, can actually help a community organization and help their people. It puts control in the hands of a community to decide what it wants to develop on its collective land. So we have to think as collectivists. We have to think about, how will this help black people? Not how will this help me? How will this help my individual little tribe? But how will this help the 44 million black people that live in the United States? Housing cooperatives. We aim to turn a significant portion of the land and properties in the Community Land Trust into cooperative spaces like housing cooperatives. Housing cooperatives will provide quality, affordable housing and stable rents to help sustain and build vibrant working class communities in Jackson. Within the eco-village model, we aim for our facilities, including housing, to create a significant degree of its own energy and waste management infrastructure so that we can effectively and efficiently use alternative sources of energy and eliminate waste. They also have a construction cooperative, a waste management and recycling cooperative, and a variety of other things that are benefiting the black people in Jackson, Mississippi. So, to do these types of things, we need black people with resources, because we cannot rely on white people, because white people are fundamentally opposed. Not all white people, but the overwhelming majority of white people, especially those that have money, are opposed to what organizations like Cooperation Jackson are trying to do in Jackson and all over the country. So of course they're not going to want an independent working class community. They don't want an independent New Africa. They don't want us to have anything but a shitty $15 an hour job working for them, going home bone tired and not having any way to organize. So anything that relieves pressure off of our communities, anything that enables us to live better as a community, I'm all for. Of course I support it. Why? Because, I was born black. I wasn't born a Marxist-Leninist Maoist, and there's no contradiction between being black and being a Marxist-Leninist Maoist. As a matter of fact, they complement each other. So, in short, there's nothing wrong with seeking to establish a better life for yourself under capitalism and imperialism, provided there is no exploitation, provided we do not fuck over our brothers and sisters in Palestine, in Africa, but do not go seek to go own a fucking Starbucks, okay? Don't break BDS. Don't fuck over people around the world. If you want to go to college and get a fucking professional degree, who am I to tell you no? Who is anybody to tell you no? It's your life. If you can afford a house, go buy it. If you can afford land, go buy it. If you see a business that you can develop, by all fucking means. White people do it. Why would I tell you to do something that white people have been doing. Like, there are fucking white so-called leftists who are business owners. There's nothing inherently wrong with it. The only inherent problem is if you are an exploitationist, if you're exploiting and robbing and harming the community, if you're a gentrifier, if you're a fucking wealthy landlord. People think I'm a landlord. I don't know why. Maybe I have a landlord vibe. Maybe it's because I'm a Maoist and it'll be funny to accuse the Maoist of being a landlord. I work at a fucking homeless shelter. But if I see an opportunity to help my people and make a little bit of money in the process, by all fucking means, what am I going to say no? Like, do I want to spend my whole life begging white people or working for white people? Absolutely not. Like, my ancestors want me to eat steak. Your ancestors want you to eat steak. Your ancestors want you to live well. Why? Because we built everything that this country has, and we are entitled to get our fair share of it. And ultimately, we're going to destroy it. But until then, live well.